Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality, a show designed to share spiritual insights with you so that you can comprehend the universe and how it functions. You are about to experience raised consciousness. This is a place where spiritual principles are shared with the goal of assisting you to expand your understanding of both the seen and unseen worlds. Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality helps you to discern the timeless truths handed down from wise sages through the ages, from the airy-fairy nonsense that is being taught today. Now, here is your host, Lynn Wyeth.
Welcome to Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality, the radio show that disseminates esoteric knowledge along with common sense spirituality. I'm Lynn Wyeth, creator of namology science, the ability to know all about a person's personality and the soul's purpose simply from a person's name. And you can book a reading with me and order my books at knowthename.com. Now, our topic today is predictive abilities. How does foreknowledge and prediction work? Is there a difference between predictions and prophecies? What fields use predictive skills today? What are some productive ways to develop predictive skills? And our special guest today is Susan Rowlen. Now, Susan and I were talking as we were waiting for this show to start, and I could brag on Susan all day. She is a psychic medium and a really excellent one. And I just adore her abilities and her skills and her graciousness to give you the truth in a tactful way so you can handle it. But you definitely get the truth. And before the show started, she and I were talking about my mom. And the reason for that is that my mom's in the hospital. I don't see her living more than 3 weeks. I don't see her ever leaving the hospital. I think she will pass away there. My mom's 91, has led a very good life for herself. And we were talking about how Susan and I see the afterlife and death very differently than many people, because I'm not going to get sad and sorry. I'm going to say, lucky mom, look where she gets to go. And I know my dad already showed me 3 days ago that he's there waiting for her, and that she has a lot of angst still against my dad. And we were talking about how that will Susan was saying how that's going to get dropped. And the minute she sees him, and I said, yes, I see that she's going to be happy he's there. So I want to jump right into that first. And it is the predictive ability of being able to see when somebody's going to cross or that time frame within there. And to look at parenting and how we associate with parents or how we feel about parents and the whole death thing just real quickly before we get into more predictive things. So Susan, you were telling me some really juicy stuff right before we started. So if you would share that with our audience, I would just so appreciate it.
Oh, well, first of all, I want to say it's always a pleasure doing this, because we always have some really interesting talks, and I think these are the kind of talks that people need to hear and put a lot of these things to rest. So thank you, as always, for having me. I love you. And, well, I love that, seriously, and I think that's what's so important about having connections with people. When you have the right connections with people, it is very important to keep those connections thriving. So when you have somebody that you connect with, don't let them go. But when you were talking about your mother, I'm deeply sorry, because it's always a hard thing. But at the same time, I always call it, when you're going to the afterlife, a homegoing, because that's where you really belong. That's your long-term goal, is to go back home, which is the universe, the afterlife, to be with God. Your mother will start showing traces of in-between worlds, I call it, and she will start seeing loved ones around her. And for those of you that have loved ones that are due to pass, that is a telltale sign that comes very much into reality, because when they start seeing their loved ones that have passed, their mothers, their fathers, their spouses, children that have passed, I call that in between worlds. You're half in this one and you're half leaving and ready to go to the afterlife. So they come not to entice you to come over, but they're coming to let you know you're not alone. So when you hear of your father, your mother saying, oh, I'm talking to so-and-so and they're not there. No, it's not the morphine. That is they know exactly what they're seeing. And it won't be long after that. But, for those of you that have had struggles with your parents, I'm one of these that I've always had a struggle with my mother as well. And I love her, but I've always seen her for her truth. And there's been a lot of times when throughout my life I've struggled because I wish my mother could be the type of mother that I really needed, a mature person. My mother was very childlike in a lot of ways. She would get into her moods. And many times I would wish that I could see my mother for what I needed to see her as. And then it wasn't until I was 47 years old, I was on the phone with my mother, and she had said something that was very debilitating. And I got so angry, and after I hung up, I was just so angry. But I was sitting at the kitchen table, and then all of a sudden a voice said, "Why are you expecting her to be normal? This is as normal as she's going to be." So the problem isn't my mother. It became my problem, me. I was the problem because of what I expected and so wished to see in my mother that truly was never capable of being or doing or saying. Do you know at that moment something snapped? It was more of an aha moment. It was more than that I've never experienced before. It was an exhilarating peace that came over me because I was finally free of the illusion that I created in what I hoped my mother would be. I actually saw my mother as this is as far as she can go. These are her limits and her balances as a human being and as a mother. And I no longer was hurt or angry.
Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could see everybody that way for who they are and not who we want them to be?
Well, it's interesting. I love that you just said that. Brilliant as always, as you are, because that was part of my journey to going and rising to a higher level for my soul growth, because my mother set the pattern and she set the course. She was the facilitator, because that's when I started to see everybody for their truth. And I no longer allow people to hurt me any longer. So when they say, you allow people to hurt you, I don't think people really grasp what that truly means. So you do have control on how you're going to react to it.
In the book, the Know the Name, Know the Health, that we're getting there, guys. It'll eventually come out. It's being read and suggestions being made and that stuff. I make a statement in there that says, right along with what you were saying, Susan, is how I put it in the book is, if you love yourself enough, nobody can hurt you.
Exactly.
Nobody can.
Well, that's just it. And nobody puts themselves to that degree of level. And you need to, because so many people, I think the way we are raised, we think and view that it's selfish, and it's not. It's protection. You literally have to protect yourself so you don't get to that degree of hurt where that hurt can destroy you. So,
well, it's giving away your power, too, because you're letting somebody else have more power over you than you're giving yourself.
But I also see that when we have difficult parents or difficult siblings, family members that are difficult, they're here for a reason, not just to torture us, but for us to take away what we need to take away. And we basically have to learn who we are because of them, who we want to be. So you're either going to continue the warped cycle that you were in, and when you grow up, you're going to be that way with your children, or you're going to break that cycle. But I tell everybody how important this is to really understand that and make your peace, instead of saying, she hurt me and I'm so this, and she treated my sister so much better and my brother so much better. Now, I have 3 brothers. My mother always treated them much better. But you know what? She's better with the males. She was better. I'm okay with it. Seriously, I'm okay with it. I'm not jealous. I'm not, regretful. I'm not nothing. I just look at her. This is who she is, and this is the best she can be. I'm just so grateful that I've made my peace with it, that she no longer makes me sad and angry and hurt. You want to know why? I love that I'm able to make my peace, because the next lifetime, my mother will be in it again, but I guarantee she will not be my mother or anybody in the immediate family because the cycle's broken. I learned what I needed to experience, but I was able to walk away whole.
I think that's so important to know that when you can do that, that you're not stuck with that person in that immediate family again.
Yeah,
because
I mean, maybe she'll come back as my boss, but I can always quit my job. You know, I'm not stuck that I have to see her every holiday or this or that, you know. But I really look at it that way because it's just so important to understand that how you handle it in every lifetime is what is going to foresee in the next lifetime.
That's so important to know. Susan Klopstein, who's also a regular guest with me on the show, has defined honoring our parents in the most beautiful way. And so I like to give credit where credit's due because it's not my original thought. And she says, we honor our parents when we can see them for who they truly are. We copy all the fabulous good aspects that they showed us, and we don't copy any of the rest. That's how you honor your parents.
It's, you know, did you ever see somebody, like I look at my daughter, and I've always said she has the best attributes from my husband and I, because she's such a whimsical, beautiful soul. She really is. She's not difficult at all. She's always happy. So I'd like to say that she's gotten the best, characteristics from us. It's kind of the same thing with your parents. Honoring them is taking away something that made you happy, something that they always said that always proved right, a saying that they always had, even though they're very far from perfect or you had not a good relationship. You can actually take the good, because many times, my mother was a very smart woman, and she said so many things that were on point, and she was also intuitive. I take that with me, and that's what I choose to carry with me. The good things. I don't need to hang on to the things that were horrible for me, because then I'm choosing to live in that horrible era. And so it's really, you can choose what you want to take away from and the memories that you want to have. It's very, very important.
Well, and I think it's also something we were talking about before the show started, is that when we honor our parents or are appreciative of our parents, we can love them without liking them. We can appreciate what we learned from them without liking their modalities of how they taught us. But it's really important to say, I'm honoring who my soul chose as my parents, because if not, you're not honoring who your own soul, that you chose these people so you could learn these lessons or have these experiences. So therefore, you're not honoring your own choices. And I think it's very important that we honor our own choices.
Very true, because the reason that people sometimes don't understand what you just said is because we have no recollection in our pre-birth assignment to what we chose. We have no memory of that. What we chose free will. Nobody made us choose our parents. Whether you like to hear this or not, this is a fact. Okay? Everybody has to agree to the roles before coming upon the new lifetime. So you're spot on when you say you're not honoring your choices because you did choose this.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And I think it's interesting where 3 days ago I started getting that it's now my mom's time. And our show today is on predictive abilities. You know, and I think when you love somebody, even if you don't like them or you do like them, I think like is irrelevant. If you love somebody, you start getting those premonitions when it's somebody's time or when they're not feeling well, even though they're saying they're okay. I think we tune into the people that we love and we just know those things.
Very true. Many times I get a lot of my clients and they'll ask me, my husband just passed, my mother just passed. Is it too soon to make contact? And I'm often very shocked when they tell me they've been to other psychic mediums and they say it's too soon. I'm like, who told you that? I can make contact with anybody. There's no time limit. Sometimes I'll even make contact with somebody that's in between worlds that hasn't passed yet, and I could say, hey, your father's not doing well. No, you're right. My dad's in hospice. I said, yeah, it won't be long now. They said, how did you know that? I said, because I just picked up on it. So it always is amazing to me how many psychic mediums will say, oh, it's too soon. That is, don't believe that. It's never too soon. There is no time limits to the soul. So,
I look at that as it's too soon for that psychic medium to be able to pick up on it because of their own abilities.
Oh, I agree. I just said that psychic just can't pick up on it, but that is not too soon.
Right.
Absolutely. And I have said it, and I'm not trying to knock any psychic medium, but when I hear that, I just said, oh my goodness, no, that's very wrong information. So, I have more respect for a psychic medium saying, hey, you know what, I think it's too soon for me to make contact. Why don't you just be honest with them? So, but you can make contact. There is no time relevant here. It's not about time. So, yes, you can pick up on it, and you can pick up even before that they pass. So, absolutely, you can be very in sync. You really can. You don't have to get along with somebody to be in sync with them.
Well, isn't that an interesting take?
Well, it's true because energy's energy. I can't tell you how many times I'll make contact with, spirit that some of them I never even liked. But it's not about a question of me liking them. It's a question that you become the portal and they're able to come to you.
That's interesting because I look at that with the names when I'm interpreting names. There's just a handful of names that when somebody calls me with one of those names, I just kind of take a deep breath. Yeah. And I go, oh, in my personal life, this name gives me problems. And yet it's not, I look at it as it's my job to get out of the way and just give them the best name reading I can.
Yeah, you know what? That's what I say all the time. I'm here just to facilitate the messages for you. The messages are not for me, they're for you. So I have to repeat them because you're like an attorney. Think about it this way. You know how an attorney represents somebody and has a client? You are representing the loved one that's passed.
Yeah.
So you need to be as honest as possible and literally tell the message the way they want it told. That is your job. Don't put your spin on it. Just say it. Now, your client may have a spin on it after he or she hears that message, or many times the message doesn't make sense to me, but I still say it, but it makes all the sense to the loved one.
Right, because they're communicating in their language. And that brings us to our first break, and we really will come back and talk about predictions and prophecies and how to get our predictive skills better right after this break. Stay tuned.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
When you need to know, meet Susan Rowlen. She is a gifted psychic medium, intuitive, and heart-centered healer who has given countless psychic and medium readings to clients all over the globe. Clients describe Susan as being warm-hearted, highly accurate, intuitive, inspiring, non-judgmental, and the real deal when delivering her readings to clients. As a professional psychic medium, Susan uses her abilities to help clients gain deep insights into their life journey and gain spiritual growth, shining light on relationships, love, career, business, and family. A gifted spiritual healer, she is ready and uniquely qualified to help you transform your life. You may schedule an appointment with Susan via her website, susanrowlen.com.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. You're with Lynn Wyeth, your host, and our special guest today is Susan Rowlen. Again, her website is her name. Susan is spelt the normal way, and her last name is Rowlen. So her website is Susan Rowlen, Rowlen is how you spell it. You'll have a waiting list, and she's absolutely worth waiting for and able to get in and talk with her. Okay, so we're talking about predictive abilities, about foreknowledge and prediction work. Is there a difference, first of all, between predictions and prophecies?
To a point, there is. It's based on time, and that's kind of how I see it. You know, when I look at a prophecy, they can say it like Nostradamus. Let's look at him. He had projected many outcomes. That something could happen over a period of time, or what he has seen, or what he has told, and that it's happened centuries later. So basically, the difference between a prediction and a prophecy is based on the time frame.
Oh, that's interesting. I had heard at one time that one of those had to come true, and the other thing was the most likely outcome, and it didn't ever register correctly with me.
Here's the thing, foreknowledge, and I'm going to say why I say that. Foreknowledge is when you know well in advance, having knowledge beforehand. So an example that I always would like to say is, let's look at inside trading. Okay? Foreknowledge on a stock, activity before the actual event. Okay? That's kind of how I see foreknowledge. Now, a prediction. Here's the thing with predictions, and this is something that, you know, many times when people see a psychic medium, myself included, when I see something, people will automatically have a time frame to when they expect it to happen. And in truth, it may not happen until maybe you're married, you're going to get divorced, and you're going to marry again, and that is what somebody had said to you about this, okay? But most of the time I've noticed, and this is why I always say to my clients, unless I can see exactly when it's going to happen, and if I do, I will say the time frame, but sometimes I'll see things, and it just isn't going to happen until a little bit later. So it is based on time frame. It really is. But people have to just remember that you said it.
Right. That's why I record everything.
Well, and that's good because, no, I think you're very brilliant in doing that. That's why early on when I started giving sessions, I put on my website immediately, I give permission to record the session. You just can't use it for public use. But if you use it for yourself and what you need, absolutely, I have no problem. Everybody that comes in for in-person sessions, they either write or they record or they do both, and I have no problem with that. Because I do think it's highly effective to have it on a recorder or in your notes of what I said. Because so it's the time frame that makes it very interesting to me. It really is.
What always makes it interesting to me is, what did I hear and what did I not hear the first time it was said? Like, oh, yeah, I forgot that piece. Why did I forget it? And then something that was said, I may interpret it one way the first time I hear it, but given some time and I reread that, because I transcribe if somebody's giving me a reading, I transcribe it. And, of course, I record all the readings that anybody gets with me. But I look at that later and I think, am I still interpreting this the same way, or was there more to this message that I just didn't hear the first time?
There's a lot of clients that said, I listened to our tape 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and my God, I walked out of there. Some things that you said made a lot of sense, and some things that you said, Susan, made no sense to me, only to re-listen to it, and everything you said happened. I said, really?
Right.
Now, ironically, I don't remember what I say to my clients, and you're going to say, really, why? Because they're not my messages to retain. They're for you.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I could recreate it because I can look at the names and redo the thing, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't either. And I say, could you enlighten me? What did we what did we talk about? So now a prediction is what I always say is the estimate of future based on mystical knowledge. Okay, so foreknowledge is something that you kind of have some knowledge about in the beginning. But a prediction is just something that you see, you feel, you hear, you taste. That is just something that's coming out of nowhere, but so important and so real.
So what are some ways to develop predictive skills?
Well, here's what I tell people. If you want to strengthen your psychic abilities, you need to start making, I call it a psychic journal. Journals are very, very important, because you have to be aware of what you're feeling or what you're seeing, even if it doesn't make sense to you. And that's why I like journals, because you can write them down. Maybe repetitive numbers that you keep seeing, that you have no clue what it means. Write them down. What were you thinking? What were you doing right before you saw those repetitive numbers? Clues or evidence, putting puzzle pieces together. That's why I like journaling. Now, when you dream, if I see someone who is an active dreamer, the first thing I'll say is definitely put a pad and a pen, and when you wake up, because it's fresh in your mind, think about the colors that were in your dream, the people that you were seeing, what you were doing, if you were in a certain building. These are things that are very important that will actually explain and give you the deeper meaning of the dream. So when you are aware and you write these things down over time, you're going to best understand them. And then your skills will slowly start to develop even stronger.
I think that's interesting you talk about.
Well,
I think it's interesting you talk about dreams, because I have just started a dream journal a week ago for the first time. And the first couple of days that I wanted to do it, I thought, man, the minute I open my eyes, that thing is gone. So I've learned that if I can wake up but keep my eyes closed, I can lock in that dream into the memory long enough to grab my tablet as I'm running to the bathroom, and that's where I write it. I know that may be TMI, but I thought that.
Well, here's what I like that you're doing, because you're getting into a mode that you're not normally used to. And, when it comes to dream interpretation, I know exactly when anybody tells me a dream, I'll say, okay, this is what it means. But I've done dream interpretation when I was a little child, because my mother taught me that. So just like if, reading palms, I don't do it for a living, but I can read anybody's palm and I can see what I see. I can see sickness. I can see miscarriages. I could see when somebody's cheating on their spouse. I could see all of that right in the hand. And I tell people, your lifelines change probably every 6 months. So pay attention to the lines in your hand. People never do that, but some get longer, some get shorter, some lines disappear that were there once and now they're gone. It's very, very interesting. So, yeah. But other ways to develop psychic abilities is try thinking like a criminal. That's probably my best, because I work with missing people, cold case murders. I've done that since I was 18. I'm doing this for 41 years, and I always was able to think outside my body. I wasn't Susan anymore. It was like the criminal was inside me, and I knew exactly what they did, where they put the body, in how they did it. So try thinking like the criminal. Stop thinking like you. If you think like you, you're never going to figure it out.
That's really interesting because I used to think like the kids. If I was a kid and I wanted to get away with this, see, I was a teacher in the classroom. So I used to think, if I was a kid and I wanted to get away with this, what would I do?
See?
And then I'd think,
and you figured it out.
Catch the kids what they were doing. Yeah, that's why they always say, man, you can't get away with anything in here. And I think, no, because I can think like a kid.
I love that. I do, because you get the concept. So that is just something that is just so important. But that is developing psychic abilities. But the biggest thing I can say is you need to trust the messages that you get. Here's what I notice. People will get messages, then they dissect them, they go back and forth, and you just ruined a perfectly good gift that universe gave you.
Well, and I always say, get the whole message before you start to dissect it, or else the receiving of it stops.
Well, the reason they do that is because those are the control freaks. Those are the micromanagers. You cannot be a micromanager in a psychic world. You will never blend. It will never work.
I want to back up a little bit. You said think like a crook. I remember a time period when I was in college, and I don't even know what I was going through. I don't remember, but I remember thinking to myself, every time something happens, I need to think, what would Yeshua ben Joseph have done in this situation? So could we also attempt to think like a saint or somebody that we really respect? Would that do it too, or we need to go with the opposite of who we are?
No, not when it comes to murder and missing people. It doesn't work that way. No, I wish I could. I really do, but no, not at least the field that I've done. No. As soon as I actually think they give me this ability, because that's how I'm going to find them and find the bodies, or figure out, you do know how many times I have gotten state's attorneys to, exhume the body because they missed something? I can't tell you. And it's easy. They've gotten a court order. I remember I had one state's attorney, and I'll never forget it. He called me up, and because I told him he was looking for the wrong wife. Look for this wife, and you'll find what happened, because the other wife, they didn't have a body. The other wife was had passed away. And he said, you better be effing right, he said to me. And I remember he called me. And I, because they're all arrogant. And I turned around and I said, I am, and I hung up on him. Because it wasn't that I was trying to be, I'm always right. No, because I have all the faith in spirit, and they're showing me. And what I always say is, spirit never lies. Never. They're going to tell it to you the way it is. So I knew I had to trust them, and I knew that they would have my back if I trusted them, and I've always trusted spirit. And that's why they lead me to where, without me putting my 2 cents in.
I think that's hard for a lot of people, trusting spirit. And I always say, when I do my best, God does the rest. So I don't even worry about it. I just say, hey, I've done my best. The rest is up to you guys,
But that's actually a very good point in how to live by. You're right. But
I think it's hard to trust.
Well,
because you look at things and you go, what I've been told, I don't have a problem with this. I think I've loved God my whole life. But what I look at is when different things happen and it's not to your liking, then sometimes people say, God, why didn't you come rescue me? Or why didn't you come whatever? And then you lose your trust for God, instead of being able to step back and saying, why did I create this in my life? And put the blame on yourself.
But then you're looking to God to be the enabler in your life. You cannot depend on God to fix your life. You have to fix it by the choices you make. God gave you a brain. Use it.
Wonderful point. So I just know that I've had enough clients that find it very difficult to trust God. And I think that's a challenge for them. And the difference is, are you taking responsibility for your own life? I love that we're then asking God to be the enabler if we're saying, God, you should have done this or that.
Sometimes, when I hear people that say to me, Susan, I prayed to God for this and I prayed and, he just doesn't give it to me. And I said, yes, he did. He gave you the answer. He said no. How about that? He said no.
Yeah.
Just because you want it you were a kid. Did your parents buy you everything in the world that you wanted and pointed and said, I want that? The answer is no. Because God, you have to understand something. God is not bad. Bad things happen to us, but that's not God's fault. We have to decide early on how we're going to handle things, because it is the incident, the experience, and what we're going to do with it that's going to determine our next level and where we're going. And I'm not talking about the afterlife. I'm talking about being on this earth, our lifetime. Choices can make or break us. One little choice that we decided, to give in to the wrong person or marry somebody because we felt sorry for them and you've had a horrible life because of that, those are your choices. That's not because God told you to go marry him. So I can't, no, no. And maybe you needed to marry that person. You had to go through that because then maybe you had to learn those things. But ultimately, it's your choice.
It's okay to be mad at God. God can handle it. And
yeah, but don't say stuck in it.
That. Oh, yeah. Yeah, not to say stuck in it.
Well, don't you find that people like to be bitter and stay mad because they like to use it as an excuse?
Well, I think it gives them power where otherwise they're feeling powerless.
Well, I kind of look at it is when they get mad at God, they can't look at themselves to what they should have done because that means they have to do the work. It's like a human being who wants to get out of, who never admits that they're wrong. Those are the people, number one, that will never grow. But those are the people that will never get it, because if they keep saying it's not my fault, they don't have to do the work.
Well, they just get to postpone the work. I think they still have to do it. Okay, we're going to come back with more things on predictions and how to develop our predictive skills right after this last commercial break.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. The why is hidden in your name. Lynn Wyeth has created a scientific way of deciphering your name to reveal your contract for this lifetime. And your name even specifies the 7 areas that are subsets of your soul's overall goal. Your name identifies who you are to both yourself and others. What does your name say about you? Contact Lynn Wyeth at info@knowthename.com for your stunning name review.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at EJI.org.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Susan Rowlen. And you can reach Susan through her website, which is her name. It's just Susan, S-U-S-A-N, and the last name is spelled R-O-W, like you're going to row a boat, and then L-E-N, so SusanRowlen.com. Okay, so Susan, coming back to predictive abilities, if you wanted to develop your own prediction abilities, could you take a deck of cards with somebody and have a friend and have them hold up a card and you're only seeing the back of it, and you put down what you think it is, and then see if you were right or wrong on the suit or the number, and see if over time you improved? Would that be a way of helping to develop predictive abilities?
You can, but everybody's different. It's just like everybody learns different, so you can't really think that that's going to do it. That kind of reminds me of a magician trick, not a psychic trick. I kind of look at it as what you have to do first is when you want to start doing that, you've got to unblock what's in your past as well as what's in your present. You need to discipline your mind to what you let in and what you let go. This is very, very important because when you have things that are still lurking, that will compromise the messages universe is trying to send you because you're putting these individual blockers up. So you really do have to clear your mind. So if you're trying to develop psychic abilities, you can't be thinking, Aunt Edna, she did something bad to me, or my mother was terrible, or my father was an alcoholic, and I never got over that. Well, then it's not gonna do that because your portal might be opening, but you're going to be bringing in a lot of negative energy. So if you're really a person that really wants to develop it, do the journal, like I said. Start clearing your past as well as your present, because you have to make room for the right answers to come through. This is very important.
Okay. I got a joke that goes with that. Mm-hmm. When you don't get the answers that you want, you're simply asking the wrong questions.
True.
You've got to adjust the question to make it fit that answer.
You know what? That's true. Here's what I tell people. When you're talking to your guides or your angels or whoever it is that you are talking to and you're stumped, why don't you say this? What do you want me to know? They will show you. Just be open to it without criticism. Let them show you what they want you to know. Stop putting your ego into it. There is no room for ego when you have psychic abilities. And that is something that's important to do. Notice how certain topics make you feel. Many times I'll have clients, they'll say, Susan, I really feel this is coming in our world, or I keep seeing this. What do you make of it? And the first thing I'll tell them, if I really zoom in, that you're absolutely correct. And I'll even put another spin on what's coming. And they say, so you do see that? And I'll say, yes, I do. So, you need to trust it. You need to trust it. Many times before COVID, I remember I had this lady, and we did a reading, and she says, I keep getting that I'm supposed to buy a lot of food, and I'm supposed to buy a lot of paper goods, and I don't know why. And I go, well, then just do it. She goes, but why? I go, it's not for you to know right now. You just need to trust the clue that they gave you. So 2 years later, we had COVID, and she says, oh, my God, Susan. She said, I stocked up. I am so glad because I live in a little town. When COVID came, we had nothing. There were empty shelves for months and months and months, and it all made sense. So there you go. There's a perfect example. Sometimes you won't know the answer, but you just have to trust what you are getting. And if you do, I always say universe is like scavengers. They're going to give you a clue. And if you honor that clue without defying that clue, they're going to send you the next and the next and the next. And then pretty soon you are going to have the whole canvas of all your puzzle pieces.
That's a cool way of looking at it. Does meditation help?
It does for some. It does. And then for others, I always say, do what you love, and then your messages are going to come. I never have to sit still. It's funny. When I'm in the shower, I get everything. But when I'm doing my hair, I'm doing my makeup, all of a sudden they're coming. And they're very noisy because I get one message after another. And I'm like, oh, my God. I mean, they're noisier than the blow dryer itself when I'm drying my hair. And I'm like, okay, so am I meditating? I'm far from meditating. I'm getting ready in the morning. I'm on a time schedule, but yet they're coming. So everybody gets it different. But if you're a person that really is in sync with meditation, absolutely do it. If you're an avid gardener and you like working with the earth and you get your messages that way, by all means do it. If you're a good swimmer, or you like going to the beach, you may be getting your messages by doing that act. So everybody is different. Here's another thing I've learned. There's so many workshops and I don't know what you call them, but like, some psychic mediums, they have these things where master classes, that's what I wanted to call it. And they try to teach people these things. I'm for the master class and sometimes I'm not, because you're teaching them your way. Your way may not work.
Right.
So I think what you need to teach is how you're going to get it to work for you, not with what's worked for you, for the other person. So, it depends how they're going to teach you, but everybody is going to react differently. Everybody is going to react differently. I never took a master class in my life, and I'm so glad I never did, because the more I stayed away from it, the more my abilities came through. I remember when I used to do expo centers, and you'd have all the psychic mediums on the first floor in a corner there. And my husband would say, okay, here's the layout. Where do you want to be? I says, I want to be on the second floor by myself. And I, honest to God, and this is, you can ask anybody, I would have a waiting line of 3 to 4 hours, people waiting in line for their 15-minute sessions with me, because when you're at an expo, you can't go on and on and on because you've got people. And you know what? Those psychic mediums downstairs, my husband said, they were twiddling their thumbs playing cards. I said, see, so sometimes I need to be away from everybody's energy. I don't want their energy. I want to just zoom in on what I get. Very, very important. So understanding who you are and what works for you is how you're going to develop your gift even more. Don't worry about being like everybody else.
So real quickly, because we don't have much time left, Susan, how do you protect yourself so that you're not receiving from an entity or a spirit that you don't want to receive from?
A lot of different ways. It isn't just one thing. Number one, I'm big on saging, and I only use white sage. I don't care if you don't like the smell. I have many people go, but I don't like the smell. I say, well, you're used to wearing a mask. Wear a mask when you're saging, okay? Because that's what you have to do. My husband he's very allergic to white sage, but he has never once said don't sage the house, because he knows the difference and he feels it. Okay, so definitely white sage, okay, and then you do Palo Santo. White sage takes the bad out, Palo Santo puts the good in. Another thing that I have learned and done, I'm very, very close to Joan of Arc. I've seen her, and she is a love of strength, a pillar of strength. When anybody is getting too much to me energetically, I visualize my whole body, including my face, my whole body, a suit of armor. And anything that comes will bounce off my armor. And I see Joan of Arc spreading that yellow light all over me. It works. I'm very close to the angels. Archangel Michael is wonderful, but there's so many other archangels that you can pray to. The number one thing is understanding these angels and knowing what they do and what they specialize in. They are extensions of God's, and God taught them to be the messengers, okay? People say, oh, I don't believe in angels. You can talk to God. Yes, you can talk to God, but don't ever rule out the power of an angel that God created, okay? So it is very important to know what they specialize in. I do have a YouTube channel, and I have a whole YouTube section on the angels, and it's very, very enlightening. You just do Susan Rowlen YouTube, and it'll pop right up.
Okay.
Yeah, I have an angel number sequence, so if those of you that get your messages through numbers, you'll get that. Archangels, saints, all of that, you'll know what they specialize in. That's very important. And it's also very, very important to understand how one person can make you feel. Now, if there is somebody that's really not making you feel good, pay attention to how you feel. That's another way to strengthen your intuitive side. If somebody is making you feel like on top of the world, such as when I'm with Sharon, I just feel exhilarated. It's the truth. I do. And I feel so good that I'm still smiling when I'm in the car going home when I just got to see Sharon or we had a phone call. Why? Because we connect, and she never tries to overshadow or take something away. She totally understands it, and she has a wealth of information in the most loving of ways. So for me, you're recharging my battery spiritually. Pay attention to that. So when you are around people that bring out the best in you, those are the people you want to circulate, because more of the good messages are going to come through. If people
I'm delighted I can be of service.
Oh, my God, it's the truth.
We're almost out of time. Do you have anything going on right now that you want to tell everybody about real quickly, or like a radio show or any seminars that you're coming up with?
Well, let's see. I am doing free psychic readings on Kendra G, and it's going to, if you go on my Susan Rowlen Facebook, you'll see everything that I'm doing. I'm doing that, I believe, I'm looking on the 20th, and that's going to be on Instagram from 6 p.m. Central Time. Friday, February 25th, I'm doing an Angel Series workshop with Jen Weigel, and that starts at 7 p.m. Central Time. I'm trying to think what else. Really cool stuff coming. I'm doing a workshop about children. What do you do when you have an intuitive psychic child? That's really, I'm doing that on April 29th. Intuitive children. What do we do with them?
Okay.
And that's at 7 p.m.
Facebook?
It will be all on Facebook, yeah, and it will be also on my Instagram. So I say just periodically look, it'll all be there, and you can sign up. There'll be links, and it's very affordable, and we're going to do this all on Zoom.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us again. Okay, everybody, this is our last time on OMTimes Radio. As of next week, we are back on BBS Radio. Same time, same date. Everything else is the same. We're just moving stations. And OMTimes has been marvelous. And even with that, we're back on BBS where I was before I came over here. So that starts next week. Stay tuned. And next week, we're going to have Lincoln Gergar. You're not going to want to miss that show. He's another amazing person that I would love to share with you and introduce you to. All right. We always end our show with the music Shine by Dee Lamore. And so with that, this is Sharon Lynn Wyeth signing off.
So long ago, gazing in the mirror, an image of an angel smiling back at her. No wounds or imperfections, just beauty and its glow. Her laughter and her heart, a reflection of her soul. And I want to shine like the sun and smile to stop the rain. And I want to dance with the wind and believe in dreams again. stroke the canvas of her. The light slightly dimmed, her reflection unseen, and all that she knew, and all that would be, it vanished like the sun rays on a shimmer